Have you been debating whether or not you want to combine finances with your spouse? This is a really hot topic. Some people have had really bad experiences or they had this fear that is holding them back. And so I brought my husband on as a co-host today. We're going to dig into this topic and talk about it, the pros, the cons, what the Bible has to say, and our controversial take on the matter.
Hey friends, welcome to the Jolie Harris Show. Let's dive into today's episode.
So this can be a really controversial topic because some people have a lot of emotional baggage or fear, right, from maybe personal experiences, something that they saw one of their parents go through, or just people around them in situations that they've seen transpire, right? And I'm sure that if you're watching this video, you want to make your marriage work, right? But you just feel confused about what is the right thing to do. And so my hope and prayer is that what we share today is really going to help you. So let's start by sharing a little bit about our story because we combined our finances right away when we got married.
Yes.
John, you want to share a little bit more about that and like kind of your perspective on things?
It took me a while to get used to us having, the same bank account. I think it helped our marriage and forcing us to have conversations about money.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
I felt like if we haven't joined our finances, we wouldn't have been on the same mind. And, the Bible talks about us being one.
One of the biggest benefits that come out of this is that you're forced to talk about money together. You're forced to be on the same page, right?
Yeah.
I think that was really good to start our marriage with that foundation. And that's not to say that can't happen if you start later on, because I don't believe that it's ever too late to start doing the right thing.
Yes.
I believe that God is a redeemer and he's an encouraging God. And so wherever you are along in the journey, even if you didn't start out perfectly right, doing things right, I believe that in God, it's more about how you finish than how you started, right?
Yes.
God is such a redeemer. So wherever you find yourself in that journey with your spouse, it's not too late. I think it was great that we did that. I didn't really have trouble getting adjusted to having a joint account, but I think what I did get challenged by is some of your spending habits. And I would say, having to bear the consequences, whether good or bad, right? Maybe I'll use the term outcomes rather than consequences. The outcome of your decisions, right? Your decisions with how you spend money or what you perceive as valuable or not valuable. And I had to also bear the weight of those outcomes, whether positive or negative. And I think that was a big challenge for me personally. The second biggest challenge was feeling in certain moments that I had lost some control. Now, I do feel like that went away at some point in our marriage, but in the beginning, I remember one instance specifically where I had came to you about something that I wanted to do, and you didn't say no, but you basically told me not yet, not right now. It was a not right now thing, right? And it didn't sit well with me. I didn't like it. My flesh didn't like it. I was offended a little bit. I don't know if offended is the right word, but more so, I felt away. I felt away. I was in my feelings and I felt away. And I was a little bit indignant, to be honest with you, being totally transparent here. So for people who struggle with control, right? You want to have control. You want to fix everything. You want to be in control of everything. I think that those issues are really pointing to something deeper in the marriage and the relationship. I think that when people have difficulty coming together in their finances, it's really more of a reflection of a deeper issue in their marriage relationship. So what you think is a money issue is really a relational marriage issue that needs to be fixed. And once you get on the same page in your marriage and relationship, then you guys can come together in your finances and be on the same page as well. So it may be something in the marriage that needs to be fixed. And that's not to say that there may not be other areas where like maybe one person needs to work on their spending habits or the other person needs to work on, consistency or something like that, communication. But I think a lot of the reasons that people give for not wanting to combine their finances or not trusting their spouse, it really isn't about money. It's really about the relationship. So let's talk about some of the reasons that people give for not wanting to combine their finances. Let's kind of dig into that. some of the things that I've heard is like, maybe their parents didn't have a good experience. They saw some things in their parents' relationship, whether their parents were married or not, and that did not reflect well. And they said to themselves, I don't want to go through that. They see that and they're like, no, that I don't want that. And so they are trying to create a different trajectory, right, for themselves in their marriage, but they just might be approaching it the wrong way. So I'm curious, like, what do you have to say to that?
My take on that is that I think it's really important to involve God in situations like that, especially if you feel like there's some distrust with your spouse. I think involving God
100%,
and that, and talking about it when you're not in your feelings and when you're like all flustered inside, but when you guys calm down or whatever, come back and pray about it and talk to each other about it and see how you guys can improve on that issue. If it's something that you seem like it's out of control, you can always invite a third party.
Yes.
Someone that you trust and that has your same biblical values.
Yes.
You can talk with them.
Counselor, a pastor, someone that you trust.
Yes. Yeah. So talking with someone like that can definitely open both of your eyes, because
100%.
there can be some blind spots that the person who think they're right, they may not see either.
And let's be clear, everyone has blind spots. So whether you're in the right or not, whether you're in the right or wrong, even if you're in the right, you still have some blind spots and things that you can't see. So I think that's a great point. Yeah, so I would say whatever issues that you may need to work through to get to that place where you're comfortable and at peace with combining finances, number one, pray and involve God. That is really the foundational thing, right? Be praying for your spouse. Be praying together.
Yes.
I've heard so many statistics and examples of couples and the success rate of their marriage when they pray together versus couples who don't, right? And it's drastically different.
Yes.
I don't have the stats right in front of me. I wish I did. But it's drastically different. And so praying together with your spouse, doing devotions, that has nothing to do with money, but it has everything to do with your marriage and relationship. And it is going to affect how you guys talk about money, how you guys handle money, how you guys spend money, all of those things. So to be one in your finances, you first need to be one in your marriage relationship and be on the same page with the Lord. Be involving God in your relationship, in your marriage.
Yes. It's such a strong point, because we're human beings. And
yes, absolutely.
We have a lot of faults and weaknesses, and it's only by God's grace that we're able to come together. And it's God's idea, so we need God.
100%.
It's not our marriage is not our idea. It's not a man-made idea. It's God's idea. So we need God to help us.
Marriage is so important to God, and that's why we're talking about this. This is such foundational wisdom in the Word. As far as like becoming one, this is part of that becoming one. The Bible says that you are one. You leave your father and your mother and you become one. It's really important that you also become one in your finances, right? And that's why we are talking about this, because we care. We care about it because we know God cares about it, and we want to see people win in their marriage, right? There's no use in trying to win with money if you're not winning at home in your relationship with your spouse and your children. That is so important and foundational. So we talked a little bit about some of the pros and cons, right? One of the biggest pros is combining finances forces you to get on the same page. It forces you to talk about money with your spouse. So it's actually helping you communicate with your spouse. That's a huge benefit. The second is it's going to help you spiritually, because when you're not right in your relationship with your spouse, it is affecting your spiritual life. And that is scriptural. There's a verse in Peter, I believe it's 1 Peter, and it talks about, how for the man, he should be how he's supposed to act towards his wife so that his prayers are not hindered. That is a really powerful verse, right? And that verse not only applies to the husband, but it also applies to the wife. So how we carry ourselves in our relationship, it's going to impact us spiritually as well, right? And so it's helping us to be on the same page, there's a spiritual benefit as well. Some of the cons, I wouldn't say that they're necessarily a con, but it's something that your flesh has to get over, and we touched on that, which is you may feel in the beginning like you're losing some control. Your flesh might not like it because it's going to force you to potentially have to adjust to the preferences of your spouse so that you guys get on the same page, right? Either party may need to sacrifice a little bit or adjust to the other person, right? But that is something that you get past. And so even though it could be perceived as a con, a downside, that's something that you get past.
Yes.
I personally feel like some of the things that were hard for me in the beginning, it's not an issue anymore. You know, that example that I shared about in the beginning of our relationship, in our marriage, it's not an issue for me. I don't feel like I lost control of our finances. I don't feel as if I don't have freedom because we set a budget for the things that are important to us and we make goals together. And that's really the key, is that you should be making goals together for the betterment of your future together in your family life, right?
We actually go over our budget together and not separately.
Yeah.
So going over our budget and outlining our goals and what expenses that we have this month, and making sure that we're on the same page, and so that we're working together. I don't think we did that before. Working together on our finances together. Earlier in our marriage, we didn't do that. We actually, I think I was doing like our budget, and then like you kind of looked it over.
Yeah.
And
we kind of took turns, but it was mainly you.
It was mainly me doing it, but
which is funny now to look back on that.
We didn't really come together and look at the budget together cohesively, like making it equal.
It was more so like, that's your responsibility. You're going to handle that.
Right. Yeah.
And then if something came up or maybe something was overlooked or there was a mistake, then I'd get upset. But the responsibility also fell on me because I wasn't doing my part. And I am so glad you brought that up. I want to address that because I know that this is not the case for everyone. But in some cases, I think that some women specifically, and I'm not trying to say that it's only women who go through this, but it's just what I've seen in my experience, where they feel like, oh, that's his thing, he's the one who handles that, right? And there are some cases where the men feel that way, right? Oh, my wife's got it handled. I'm busy at work and this and that. She has more time and she handles that, or she's just better with numbers, or she's just more organized. It can go either way. But I think that even if one person is more inclined, that it is important for both people to be involved.
Yes.
Because it's not fair for one person to bear the weight of that responsibility on their own. Both parties should be involved, holding each other accountable.
Yes, definitely.
It should be something that you're talking about together and going over together. So I'm glad you brought that up. One thing I want to touch on before we start wrapping this up is for people that they didn't start out maybe on the right track, or maybe they did, but there's something that happened in the relationship, in the marriage, that created distrust for them.
Yes.
And they have a really hard time being able to trust that person with money.
Yes.
And so that could be the reason that they don't want to combine finances. Like, can we speak to that a little bit and share some practical biblical tips that can help them overcome that so that they can see improvement and have hope for their marriage?
That can be challenging because we're 100%. Human and we have our own feelings and perspective on things. I think it's highly important that we involve God and
100%.
help and ask God for help with this, because we can't do this on our own. Marriage isn't our idea; it's God's idea, and so we have to work with Him for both parties to come together, even if someone made a mistake or someone has not been on the same page as much as the other person.
Yeah.
But I think both parties have to come to agreement that, although, such and such happened, with our finances, giving it a chance for things to turn around and not holding on and having a grudge.
Oh, yeah.
because that can hinder your progress too. If you want things to change around, have a hopeful attitude. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 talks about love hopes. And so we also have to walk in love, knowing that, just trusting God, and leaning on Him more instead of, oh man, I hope this person don't do this, and
Yeah.
that, and that. But like, just put all that into God and trusting God that God will help your partner to make a change or do things differently.
Absolutely. I think prayer is key. That's foundational, right? Making sure you're praying for your spouse and that you're praying together. That's so important. And also involve a third party if needed. Get counseling. Talk to a pastor, a financial counselor, someone that you trust that shares your biblical values to come in and help you guys, right? To get on the same page. And so we want to be attacking it from the spiritual side and also the practical, right? We want to have a plan, right? We want to make sure that we are coming together and talking about how to improve and make changes, right? But also making sure that the spiritual side is covered, because we cannot rely on willpower alone. And I love what you said about not putting it all on the spouse, right? Like, oh, I hope that they change and this and that, but involve God in it. And if they have a repentant heart and they do want to change and make this work, then, it's important to give them some grace and be willing to work with them, because God is so gracious to us, right? Believing that God can redeem the situation and help you guys get on the right track as you're praying, and also doing the practical things you need to do, working on the budget, holding each other accountable, get the counseling if you need it. But attack it from both sides, the spiritual and the physical. And listen, if you need a super simple budget template to get started, I have one for you. Go ahead, check it out at joliejharris.com/budget. It's completely free. You don't have to download an app. You don't have to pay any monthly fees. It is completely free, and it's going to help you to start with something simple that you can be consistent with. Now, if you want to know more about how to win with money, and maybe you're struggling because your expenses are super high and your income's not high enough, check out my next video all about how to save money on a low income. So whether you're making $10, $15 an hour, $20 an hour, but it's just nomad for the expenses that you have, this video is going to help you make some key changes that will help you win. So go ahead, check it out. I'll leave that on the screen, or I'll also leave a link in the description.